Why did Akio Morita continue when a favored format faltered? How did the project's author move on when a bold purchase drew patient criticism? Akio Morita entered the world in Nagoya in Aichi Prefecture in Japan in late January of 1921. The eldest son of a long-established merchant family known for brewing sake and making soy sauce. The household valued steady work, careful observation, and modest pride in craftsmanship, and those habits flowed through family talk around the table as naturally as the scent of cedar casks from the storage yard. The child grew in an environment where enterprise was part of ordinary life, and where decisions were measured against duty to family and community. The young student loved mathematics and the order that numbers brought, and he liked sound and the devices that captured it, even when he did not yet know how they could become a life's calling. A family assumption floated over him that one day he would return to the brewery and continue the lineage. Yet curiosity about physics kept pulling him toward classrooms and laboratories. The future leader chose science. Osaka Imperial University welcomed the serious student, and physics gave him a language to describe patterns he already felt in music and in the careful work of skilled hands. Japan in the 1930s and early 1940s was a country in motion, and the calm of formulas contrasted with the strains of a nation under pressure. Graduation came in the middle years of war, and duty drew the young physicist into the Imperial Japanese Navy. Service did not erase his tilt toward practical invention. The assignment placed him among researchers where electronics, sound, and the measurement of signals mattered. The war ended, and a country turned to rebuilding. The protagonist had learned the discipline of precise work, the need to listen to colleagues, and the value of a clear plan supported by careful hands. Masaru Ibuka appeared at that moment as a figure of focus and warmth, slightly older, already a natural center of gravity in rooms filled with parts and hopeful sketches. The two men met through the modest channels of a recovering city as engineers and tinkerers clustered in Tokyo and shared aims. A partnership took shape that felt less like a dramatic oath and more like a quiet recognition that each supplied what the other encouraged. Ibuka had an inventor's patience and a craftsman's mind for the bench. Morita brought energy for organization and a rare instinct for how people outside the laboratory might receive a product, not just use it. The path forward was not grand. There was only a room, some tools, and a wish to turn small victories into a living enterprise. Tokyo Tsushin Kogyo, the Tokyo Telecommunications Engineering Company, opened in 1946 with startup resources that would not impress any large financier and with hopes that were firm but not loud. The early workspace felt provisional and close. A few desks and a handful of people who were hungry to try modest devices that could reach a city adjusting to peace. One simple everyday episode from those first months shows the temperament that guided the years ahead. In a small corner of the room, a rough electric rice cooker was assembled from an aluminum pot with electrodes, plugged in and tested. The device cooked unevenly and burned the rice at the edges. The result was a failure by any market measure, yet the scene taught a lasting lesson to the project's author. A team could learn from grace under small disappointment, and a leader could absorb a quiet no and turn the experience into better listening and improved design. The group moved on to tape recorders and amplifiers with a steadier hand. Magnetic recording became the company's first meaningful foothold, a natural step for a partnership that cared about sound and reliability. In the late 1940s and early 1950s, recording tape and tape decks were not glamorous, yet offices, schools, and broadcasters needed them. Morita looked at those needs not as distant market categories, but as rooms with people, schedules, and budgets. The company's Type G tape recorder arrived with an aura of sturdy utility. Teachers used it, ministries used it, and soon the letters TTK on the nameplate stood for a promise that the machine would run as expected. The protagonist watched those machines leave the shop floor and felt something beyond sales figures. This was proof that a Japanese company in a battered economy could meet a professional standard and be invited back to do it again. The feeling gave courage to attempt the new thing that had been stirring in conversations, a turn toward transistors and the possibility of small. Transistors were not born in Japan, and the group understood that they would need to license the technology and then walk through the unsentimental work of learning to manufacture the tiny devices. Bell Laboratories in the United States held patents. The talks were careful and sometimes slow, yet Morito's patience for negotiation and his clarity about what the factory could absorb made progress possible. The agreement allowed the company to try various paths. The first products were not sensational. Hearing aids and small desk-side equipment arrived. The path, however, pointed toward a device that matched the partnership's quiet dream of mobility, the transistor radio. A model called TR-55 arrived in the mid-1950s, followed by a smaller model named TR-63, which could sit in a shirt pocket and play for hours. There was a catch. The shirt pockets used in demonstrations were sometimes sewn with extra depth to make the point. The unspoken truth did not matter. The idea of truly portable sound had landed. A brand name carried weight in new markets, and the old corporate name was hard for English speakers to hold. The decision to choose a short and friendly word grew slowly from many conversations. The letters and the sound had to travel well, and they needed to suggest more than a literal description of work. The choice of the name Sony came from the Latin sonus, meaning sound, and from the colloquial phrase sunny boy, a cheerful image of a lively youth. Sony became the company's name in 1958, short, open, and confident without aggression. The selection was a calculated kindness toward the people the company wished to meet across borders. Would a single simple name ease a complex passage across oceans? The partnership decided it could, and for Morito, the name change was more than a legal matter. A name would be the door people opened in their minds when they met the product and the team behind it. The future leader carried the new name to the United States with deliberate steps. New York in the early 1960s was a world apart from Tokyo, and the company's presence there began in modest offices that were easy to walk past if one was not looking for them. The Sony Corporation of America formed not as a badge, but as a practical bridge, a way to listen to dealers, adapt packaging, and understand how long it took a delivery truck to reach a shop in the snow. Morito moved his family and positioned himself as both envoy and student. The language of distribution, retail, and after-sales service became a fluent part of daily conversation. American customers wanted something different from Japanese customers, and the learning did not offend him. It pleased him. The result was a style of leadership that treated foreign markets not as targets, but as communities with their own rhythms that deserved genuine attention. Portable radios brought Sony into many hands, and then the firm pursued television with equal patience and determination. Engineers within the company imagined a path to clearer color pictures that would not drift or tire the eyes. The Trinitron picture tube emerged in 1968 as a symbol of that aim. The device used an aperture grille rather than a shadow mask, and the image felt clean and bright. A television set with a Trinitron inside occupied space in living rooms with a quiet authority that matched the tone the company preferred, not showy, yet firm. The award the technology later received from peers in the industry confirmed to the partnership that the insistence on their own designs could pay back the time and capital they risked. Morito raised a glass with colleagues in celebration, not because a trophy had arrived, but because the product had kept faith with the promise made to the public. Another step, smaller to the eye yet expansive in its effect, appeared near the end of the 1970s. The Walkman, first sold as the TPSL2 model, created a new habit. The device was lightweight and meant for cassettes, and it welcomed users into a private sound field that they could carry through a park, an airport, or a dormitory corridor. The origin story often mentioned Masaru Ibuka's preference for music on long flights and a desire to listen without heavy equipment. The design team turned that wish into a form and a sound profile that felt intimate and reliable. Naming for global markets found different paths, as the device was briefly styled Soundabout in the United States and Stowaway in the United Kingdom, yet the Walkman name became universal in time. Morito's sense for human behavior was visible in the way the company explained the product, not as a gadget, but as a companion. The result was millions of units sold and a gentle reshaping of city life as people walked and traveled with music without disturbing others. Periods of expansion carried risk, and the company's later choice to pursue recorded music and filmed entertainment as part of a long plan of convergence expressed the protagonist's belief that hardware and content should live together. Compact discs, developed with Philips, had already shown that digital recording could change the experience of listening, and the synergy between devices and catalogs seemed sound. The acquisition of CBS Records in the late 1980s placed labels and artists within the company's orbit, and the later purchase of Columbia Pictures brought a major film studio and its library under the same roof as the engineers who built cameras, recorders, and televisions. The sums were large, and the practice of managing creative talent differed sharply from the discipline of manufacturing. Morito accepted that contrast as necessary and prepared the organization for patient learning. An old belief guided him that listening to the people who do the work is a leader's task, whether the work is writing a song or aligning a production line. Not everything that mattered flourished at once. A clear example came earlier with home video. The company had introduced the Betamax videocassette format in the mid-1970s, proud of its picture quality and its solid engineering. Retailers and rental stores gradually favored the competing VHS format, which offered longer recording times and which spread through many manufacturers. The episode turned into a quiet test of temperament. The project's author did not rail at the public or at rivals, and he did not hurry to rewrite history. He looked inward at what could be learned about partnerships, standards, and open licensing, and he adjusted. The experience did not end the company's confidence, and it did not block future endeavors. It became a measured reminder that even well-made ideas need ecosystem support beyond the inventor's bench and the marketing department. What does a careful leader carry forward when a cherished format fades? In his case, the answer was patience, attention to distribution, and a fresh eye for where discretion served better than pride. Describing Morito's management style means standing inside a culture he helped shape. The company believed that a workplace should feel like a studio where teams could try and refine, and where the next person's idea could be greeted with curiosity rather than suspicion. Titles and seniority mattered less than momentum and contribution. A circle of trusted colleagues joined him in making promotion and budget decisions that balanced optimism with measurable progress. Rooms were open for conversation, and the executives traveled often to visit stores and service centers. The leader thought in terms of a long path, measured in years, where investments in new components or new distribution relationships could bear fruit later. A reader of his autobiography finds simple sentences that echo the tone of meetings. Curiosity is the key to creativity. The phrase sits lightly on the page and reads like a practice as much as a belief. The collaboration with Masaru Ibuka endured as each man's role evolved. Ibuka served first as president, and then, after a planned handover, moved into the role of chairman and mentor figure. Morito shouldered the presidency, and then later the chairmanship as well, and he brought forward a generation of leaders who had grown up with the company's habits. Norio Oga, a trained musician who understood both engineering and sound, played a central role in the creation and popularization of the compact disc and later served as president, a move that suited the convergence theme. The relationship among those leaders was rooted in mutual regard and shared discipline. Decisions were described in full, dissent was allowed, and once a path was chosen, people moved together to execute. A visitor to Tokyo might have seen three colleagues walking a corridor, not hurried, comparing notes in measured voices. That image captured the institutional rhythm Morita preferred. Public recognition arrived from many directions. Industry groups praised the Trinitron and later the craftsmanship of portable devices. Universities honored the executive who had protected time for invention inside a growing enterprise. Governments offered awards that reflected diplomatic respect for a businessman who had become a cultural envoy of sorts. Those ceremonies were appreciated, yet they did not distract him from his schedule. The day still began with reading reports, listening to the morning summary from staff, and blocking time for factory visits and retail conversations during trips. The method stayed constant. The numbers and the charts mattered, yet so did the gentle contact with the people who sold the products and those who repaired them. In each place, he asked clear questions and listened with visible care. Across the 1980s, the world watched Japan with a mixture of admiration and anxiety, as many countries adjusted to new competition in automobiles and electronics. Morita spoke and wrote about management practices without urging imitation, preferring to share what had worked for his team and what had not. His autobiography, Made in Japan, published in the late 1980s, offered straightforward stories of small beginnings, incremental victories, and adaptive learning. The book did not present theory so much as a life pattern. In its pages, he reflected on product development and the limits of focus groups, repeating his belief that conversation with customers is valuable. Yet a company must sometimes show a product that people did not know they wanted until they touched it. Another brief line from his writing reads with the same steady tone: "Do not be a prisoner of your own style." The sentence sounded like counsel to himself and to any colleague who might fall in love with a single way of doing things. The acquisitions of CBS Records and Columbia Pictures, which in later years became part of a larger umbrella named Sony Music and Sony Pictures, shaped the company's profile for a generation. The deals were debated in boardrooms and in newspapers, and the financial community studied the returns with calculators in hand. Early years were challenging, especially in filmed entertainment, where slate choices, marketing spending, and production overruns tested budgets. An expensive summer movie did not find the audience the studio had hoped for, and critics used the moment to question the wisdom of hardware companies owning studios. Morita had already recognized that content required patience and a different balance of control and trust. The team recruited experienced producers and managers and gave them room. Losses were recorded, lessons were quietly absorbed, and the organization stabilized. In time, The home video market that had once caused sorrow in one format became a supportive revenue stream for the studio's catalog and for new releases. A leader's life also holds moments when health reshapes responsibilities. In the early 1990s, during a game of tennis, Morito suffered a stroke that impaired his speech and movement. The company he had guided for decades responded with respect and continuity. Functions were delegated to trusted hands, the chairman stepped back as needed, and communications explained the situation with dignity. The business had been built to endure beyond any one person, and that design now showed its worth. The protagonist, in recovery, faced his condition with the same measured resolve he had applied to setbacks in work. Family care, therapy, and the kindness of colleagues surrounded him. The organization continued to release products, to refine existing lines, and to manage the music and film businesses with calmer competence as the learning curve flattened. Looking back at the earlier years offers more small episodes that show his way. During visits to American retailers in the 1960s and 1970s, he would ask to see back rooms, repair counters, and returned merchandise, not out of suspicion, but from a wish to understand the full life of the product. The distance between assembly and use could be felt in the way a store clerk handled a box, or in the way a customer described a sound that was not quite right. Notes were taken, promised fixes were delivered, and those experiences informed the next revision. That kind of attention to detail showed that brand was not a logo painted on cardboard. Brand was a covenant kept at the service desk and in the quiet of a living room. Mentorship intertwined with management. Younger colleagues remember a chairman who would ask an engineer to explain a circuit in plain language, and who would ask a marketer to describe a campaign in terms of a single real person who might walk into a store and make a choice. Meetings rarely began with raised voices. They began with questions about aim, schedule, and the simple matter of who was responsible for what, by what day. Travel schedules were demanding, yet he made small rituals out of them, such as reading paper memos with a pencil in hand on flights and dictating short replies that were kind and direct. Mistakes were acknowledged without humiliation. Successes were praised in a manner that focused on process, not on triumph. The family life of the executive existed mostly outside headlines, supported by a marriage that lasted through the decades of building and travel. A son and daughters brought balance to a man whose workday often stretched from early morning calls to late dinners with partners or journalists. The private sphere offered a steady harbor where silence and ordinary meals loosened the tension of commercial life. Those closest to him describe a person who enjoyed music at home, who smiled when a device simply worked, and who could sit quietly in a garden and listen as if it were an instrument. The sense of proportion that marked his public choices drew nourishment from these private hours. International relations were never far from his outlook. The businessman became an informal ambassador between Japan and the United States, not through titles, but through constant travel, public conversations, and the example of partnership across cultures. He believed that mutual respect grew from knowledge and from long contact. Business could be a teacher of patience and an enabler of friendship when done with care. When trade tensions rose, he argued in calm tones for openness and for the dignity of work in all countries. Such views were not ideological in his mouth. They sounded like the plain results of a life spent in the presence of colleagues from many places and in the homes of customers who wished above all for reliable tools and enjoyable moments. An instructive moment in naming shows, again, his sense for language as part of design. The choice of Sony was not an act of style alone. It was a device for bridging speech communities. In early trips to the United States, he noticed how easily a clerk or a radio announcer could say the word Sony and smile. Politeness toward pronunciation softened introductions. A leader, he believed, should remove unnecessary friction from a relationship. That could be a power plug that fit better, a manual written in kinder sentences, or a name that felt friendly on the tongue. It is fair to ask, in a quiet and curious way, whether this attention to the small human moment can still guide large companies as industries shift again. The life of Akio Morito suggests that it can. Looking more closely at the philosophy behind product creation, one sees an insistence on beginning with use rather than with specification sheets. The engineers were not instructed to make the most features at the lowest price. They were asked to make a trustworthy companion that fit into a person's day with minimal demand for attention. Weight, ease of controls, and the feel of the case mattered as much as a circuit diagram. When he wrote later about market research, he respected it without surrendering to it. People often cannot describe what they want until after they have encountered a thing that makes sense to them. Leaders should listen, and they should also be brave enough to put a modest prototype into the world and refine it. That approach yielded the Walkman and many smaller devices that did not become household names yet served hospitals, schools, and offices with grace. Relations with partners and competitors moved through the same gentle firmness. Agreements were honored, wrong turns were discussed in private, and the company tried to avoid theatrics even when disputes were real. This behavior came from a belief that the marketplace is not a battlefield to be burned. It is a town where one might see the same neighbors again and again, and where trust accumulates over years. The choice to license some technologies and to develop others alone reflected a case-by-case judgment rather than a fixed ideology of control. In meetings on standard setting, the company argued for approaches that could allow compatibility without erasing difference. The goal was always to protect the quality of the experience in the living room or in the pocket. Education continued to matter to him, not as a credential, but as a habit. In late career, he supported programs that strengthened engineering and design, and he favored initiatives that sent students across borders. The man who had found new life by stepping beyond a family expectation wanted young people to feel free to pursue what their minds demanded. He told them in simple talk that attention and kindness at work are powerful tools. He did not present himself as a grand example. He presented his day-to-day practice of showing up, asking questions, and honoring colleagues. In that simplicity, students and young managers found a model they could carry. The final years unfolded with peace. Health limits shaped the pace of days, yet there remained a basic satisfaction that the company had been built to continue, and that the habits he valued had been passed on. The teams he had mentored continued to frame goals and move patiently. He had lived long enough to see the compact disc reshape music listening, to see personal stereo become personal history, and to see the dreams of small and beautiful devices grow into a global conversation about design. The world that emerged after his time still bears the marks of his decisions, not as monuments, but as patterns of thought inside the companies that build the things people touch each morning. The death of Akio Morito in early October of 1999 closed a life that had spanned war and peace, scarcity and abundance, anonymity and renown. The condolence messages from around the world read less like proclamations and more like notes from friends who had learned something durable in his presence. Sony continued as it had been designed to continue, under leaders he had helped select and develop. The legacy of the founder and chairman was not only the devices and the deals, but also a certain way of waiting, listening, and deciding. Younger colleagues remembered the measured voice, the clean questions, and the calm insistence that the point of a business is to make useful, beautiful things and to care for the people who make them and the people who use them. Many images can close a portrait. One can imagine the young graduate in Osaka holding a textbook with clean margins, the former naval officer in a workshop touching a wire with a probe, the new founder in a tiny Tokyo room accepting that a rice cooker had failed and looking again at the notes, the executive in New York reading a dealer's suggestions and nodding, the older chairman watching a team demonstrate a portable device that clicks and whispers to life on a desk. Each image is quiet. Each contains the same posture of attention. The calm person at the center of these scenes carried a belief that the next reasonable step, done well and done together, is what changes a company and then an industry. As a final thought, there is a line that sums up the method that guided him. Care for use, care for people, care for the long view. The arc from Nagoya to New York and back again is not a story of sudden leaps and theatrical gambles, even though large acquisitions and bold product introductions occurred. It is a story of patient learning, of listening to a partner with respect, of adjusting after an error without bitterness, and of returning each day to the same question: what can be made today that will make tomorrow quieter and kinder for someone, somewhere? The conclusion can rest on a simple scene. The afternoon is gentle, and a small radio is playing at a comfortable volume in a kitchen. A person adjusts the knob without thinking about the engineering that keeps the sound clean. Another person carries a portable player while strolling through a park, immersed in a favorite song and interruptible by a friend's hello. Somewhere a television glows softly in a living room, its color steady, its presence familiar. Those are the places where the work of Akio Morito lives. In those rooms, the devices do what they were made to do, without fuss and with care. And a listener, perhaps not knowing the name that guided the making, enjoys a moment of calm that was the point all along.